I'm David Volk, a voice of the resistance. I made a strange and funny one. Today's post, Brandy isn't a fine girl, she's just clueless. And still, she haunts my nightmares. Doot. There's a port on a western bay, and it serves 100 ships a day. Lonely sailors pass the time away. From Brandy by Looking Glass. I never said I could sing. I still remember it like it was yesterday. And every time I hear the opening bars of the song, those opening doo-doos, I still want to run screaming from the room, or car, or elevator, or wherever the hell it is that I am at that particular moment. It was 1987. I was fresh out of college and working my first journalism job at a newspaper in Independence, Missouri. I was driving a green Buick LeSabre from, maybe the late 1970s, and all it had was a tinny AM radio. Even in those days, AM was where music went to die. As I cruised around town, I could either listen to the all-news station, the all-sports station, a variety of stations all carrying the same Rush Limbaugh broadcast at different times throughout the day, which made them the all-Rush Limbaugh stations, or Kansas City's oldies station. So you can guess which one won, but only barely. If I hadn't been the county government reporter, it might not have been that big a deal. But because I had to cover Jackson County legislature meetings, I spent a lot of time in my car driving back and forth to Kansas City. A lot of time. And much of that time was spent listening to the oldies station. This didn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. By the late 1980s, there were a lot of great oldies. The Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel, the Mamas and the Papas, Roy Orbison, the Beatles, Otis Redding, Motown, Elton John, Elvis Presley. Did I mention the Beatles? To listen to the station, though, you would assume that most of those acts either never existed or were mere footnotes in music history. The station definitely had its favorites, and it played them ad nauseum. Alley Oop, Another Saturday Night, Wild World, Hang On Sloopy, the worst of the worst. Songs that were fun to listen to the first 5 or 6 times you heard them back in the 70s, but were out there welcome during the Clinton administration. Apparently, though, no one had ever bothered to send this station the memo, or they didn't get it. There's a girl in this harbor town, and she works laying whiskey down. They say, Brandy, fetch another round. She serves them whiskey and wine. I can't carry a tune in a briefcase. There was one song that was on such high rotation on the station's playlist that it seemed to be on every time I tuned in, no matter how many times I turned on the radio in a single day. Yep, you guessed it. I had to hear about what a fine girl Brandy was, what a good wife she would be. But this sailor's life, his lover, his lady, was the sea. At night, when the bars close down, Brandy walks through a silent town and loves a man who's not around. Like I said, I can't carry a tune in a briefcase. But day in, day out, I had to listen to Brandy get rejected more often than pimply-faced, brace-wearing teenage me got shut down by every girl at every high school dance I ever went to. You'd have thought she would have caught on by now, but no. The same guy rejected her again and again and again and again with the same lame-ass excuse. As former President Joe Biden would say, come on, quit the malarkey, will ya? Just once you'd think she'd shove a grapefruit in his face or something, but she just stood and took it. She still can hear him say, she hears him say, Brandy, you're a fine girl. Woo, you're a good girl. What a good wife you would be. Such a fine girl, but my wife, my lover, my lady is the sea. I meant to say life, not wife. Okay. Although I worked at that newspaper for 15 months, I had had enough of Brandy by week 2. Despite that, I had to put up with her weak-ass ways or listen to Rush. And I'm not talking about Tom Sawyer, if you catch my drift. So I usually chose the lesser of two evils. Or at least so I thought. These days, however, Rush is dead, but Brandy lives on. And every time I hear the opening bars of that song, my facial tic returns, my sphincter puckers, the nervous laughter begins, and I do my best to resist following in the footsteps of Cher and Moonstruck and go into that sailor's bar, walk up to Brandy, give her a shove, and yell, snap out of it! Hey, it worked for Nicolas Cage. Why shouldn't it work for Brandy, too? I've been David Volk, a voice of the resistance, albeit a strange and out-of-tune one.